All right, welcome. Thank you for attending today. It is now time to begin the candidate forum hosted by the Heber Leadership Academy. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm a member of the Heber Leadership Academy and one of your moderators for today's event. The City of Heber and the Chamber of Commerce joined together to create the Heber Leadership Academy. We are a group that discusses community-related topics and learns from impactful local leaders to better understand the needs and dynamics of the city. We are grateful for the opportunity to bring together this forum. We believe this is an important event for the community to see and hear, and that all will benefit from the experience. Today, we hope that through the course of this forum, you will learn about the candidates and what they hope to achieve for Heber City. There are 11 candidates that have filed for 3 council seats. I will now read the names of the 11 candidates who have filed to run for City Council. The names will be read in the order in which they will appear on the November 21st ballot. Casey Powers, Kristen Thompson, Sid Ostergaard, Jamie Hewlett, Vaughn Hokinson, Danny Hill, Nick Lopez, Paul Royal, Aaron Cheatwood, Tori Broughton, and Mike Johnston. Due to a scheduling conflict, one candidate will not be able to participate in today's candidate forum. This is Paul Royal. I will now turn the time over to Jessica Broadhead, our moderator, who will explain how this exceptional event is going to take place.
Thanks, Adam. I'm Jessica Broadhead, and on behalf of the Heber Leadership Academy, we would like to extend a hearty welcome to all candidates for their willingness to be here today, and to the audience members for recognizing what an opportunity this is for voters to become engaged with the voting process before it begins. So I'm just going to give you some information about how this is going to be structured today. Due to the large number of candidates, we have 11 running for Heber City Council in the 2023 election. Today's candidate forum will split the candidates into 2 groups. 5 candidates were randomly chosen to participate in Group 1, and the remaining 5 candidates will participate in Group 2. Please note that some candidates will be participating virtually. So the Group 1 candidates include Nick Lopez, Aaron Cheatwood, Mike Peterson, Johnson, sorry, wrong Mike. Because I knew you so well, I just thought I would say your last name without reading it. We've got Tori Broughton and Sid Ostergaard, who will join us virtually. In Group 2, we have Casey Powers, Kristen Thompson, Jamie Hewlett, Vaughn Eric Hokinson, and Danny Hill. So today's candidate forum will be structured as followed. Group 1 will have 55 minutes in length. There will be a 10-minute transition in between, and we'll have a second group for 55 minutes in length. The forum will be guided by procedures that are intended to ensure impartiality and fairness. I will address council candidates by providing instructions on today's forum procedures and rules. Okay, so make sure you speak clearly into the microphone when you're answering a question. We will start with opening statements by the candidates running for Heber City Council. Please take note that the timekeeper is sitting adjacent to me. Adam, when there is 15 seconds left on your speaking time, the timekeeper will hold up a card that states 15 seconds, indicating that you have 15 seconds to finish your response or statement. At 5 seconds, the timekeeper will hold up a card that states 5 seconds. Please wrap up when you see the stop card. If you continue speaking after the stop card is held up, I will say thank you and move on to the next speaker in my meanest mom voice. Personal references about other candidates are out of order and they will be called. Please note the camera in the room. The forum is being broadcast live and a recording will be available for public viewing on Heber City's website, heberutah.gov. Candidate questions will cover 4 topics: elected office, planning, growth, and a general category. Members of the Heber Leadership Academy have identified 7 questions that will be asked at today's forum. The questions will be asked of all candidates. Prior to the forum, numbers were randomly drawn that determined the order in which candidates would answer the questions. Candidate question response times to Academy questions will be as follows. Candidate 1 on the dais will have 2 minutes to respond to question 1. Remaining candidates will then have 1 minute to respond to the same question, and so on. Candidate number 2 on the dais will then be asked question number 2 and will have 2 minutes to answer. Remaining candidates will only have 1 minute to respond, and so on. You will each have 1 minute for an opening statement and 1 minute for a closing statement after the question and answer period has ended. So I will now provide instructions to the audience. Please turn off your cell phones and beeping watches now. We request that you treat all candidates fairly. Please remain quiet throughout the forum. No clapping, cheering, or calling out, with the exception that after their closing statements, you may clap for all candidates if you wish. No campaign literature or signs are allowed inside this room. If applicable, candidates will be available following the forum to talk with people, and refreshments are also available over here on the table for those of you in attendance today. So we will begin with opening statements by Group 1 candidates running for office of Heber City Council. Group 1 candidates, you will have 1 minute to read or state your opening statement. We will begin with Nick Lopez, and we will move to your left.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. As I said, I'm Nick Lopez. I am a 10-year resident with Heber City. I am a retired Marine Corps Sergeant Major and a combat veteran. I have worked 30 years for the Salt Lake City Fire Department. And in that time, in my time in the Marine Corps, I believe that my experience as a leader of Marines and a senior member of the Salt Lake City Fire Department will benefit this community and this county. I'm married. I have a stepson going to Wasatch High School, and I have 3 adult children. 2 are former service members. 1 was a service member of 3 branches of the Armed Forces. And I've grew up in a large Latino family in Sandy. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Aaron.
I'm Aaron Cheatwood. I have lived here in Heber Valley basically my whole life. Moved here when I was 6 years old. I have a wife and 3 kids here. I've got 3 kids in 3 different schools, so mornings are fun. I own a small business here on Main Street where I do IT support, and went to school in Wasatch High School. Met Chelsea, my wife, at Wasatch as well. I'm running on a campaign of clear communication. That with better communication, we can engage the public better. We can understand what things are actually needed and how people feel about them, and that we can get ahead of big decisions, make sure people know that things are coming. The second point is intentional growth, that growth is coming, but we need to be intentional about what kind of growth we want and where, and then limit that. Work with developers and make sure that we limit that. And then third, small business support, that we need to keep jobs here, keep workers here, and keep the money and the revenues here. Thanks.
Aaron, Mike, go ahead.
Thanks for having this. My name is Mike Johnston. I am currently on the City Council for the last almost 4 years. I will tell you about myself. I grew up in Kansas City. I went to BYU, went to the University of Michigan for graduate school. I ended up in Heber. Total luck. I got a part-time job, temporary, and that was 30 years ago. And so I've raised 3 kids here, got married, built a house up in Valley Hills, raised 3 kids in the same house. I am a civil engineer. I have been working on the Wasatch Back and in much of Utah for 30 years doing urban planning, structural engineering, land surveying, infrastructure. So I'm very qualified in this type of thing, what I do professionally. City Council is a wonderful thing to do, and I would think anybody that's up on this stand or in the next 6 groups would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Tori.
Hi, thank you for having us. My name's Tori Broughton. I've lived here for 1 year and I love it so much. I've been trying to move to Heber for about 10 years and all of the pieces fell into place about a year ago when my employer of 16 years offered me a role here. I run the bike shop on Main Street. And so as you learn more about me, Main Street is something that's very close to my heart. And I think that Heber deserves a Main Street where they can spend time, have conversations with people, visit small retail businesses and restaurants, and really have the heart of their city. I think along with that, we're going to need some affordable housing so that people who work in Heber can live in Heber. And I am also an avid mountain biker, so access to trails and open space is also very important to me. So thank you so much, Heber, for welcoming me into town. You guys have been great, and I look forward to meeting all of you.
Thanks, Tori. Sid.
All right, coming from Rockland, Maine. Thanks for providing the access of, Zoom. I hate Zoom. I'd rather be there in person, but fortunately, my wife scheduled or planned this trip about a year ago, so I couldn't get out of it. So or I'd be sitting there and she'd be sitting here in Maine. So again, this is amazing thing that 11 candidates are trying and or campaigning to become council members. That's amazing. So that means there's a lot of interest in what Heber City is. So again, I'm Sid Ostergaard. I moved here in 98 and raised 6 kids. This is home to us, Jen and I. Unfortunately, I only have one of my kids that are able to live here. So that's one of my priorities.
5 seconds.
So, all right, well, let's get rolling. Bring the questions on. I'm excited. Thanks.
Sorry, I'm confused. Okay, we're going to start with Nick Lopez for the first one. So Nick, you'll have 2 minutes to answer this question. Following candidates will have 1 minute to respond. This is in the category of elected office. Why are you running for elected office in Heber City, and what specific actions have you undertaken to prepare yourself for this elected office?
I'm a resident, like I said, and Heber City is important to me. I came up here as a bachelor. I'm a newlywed, and this is going to be our home. It's been my home for 10 years. It's important to me to get involved with the city, with different events going on in the city. I'm very pro-military, so I've done some things in the city, as you know, with the renaming of a park, renaming of a street, and the veteran banners on Main Street. I think what's given me experience to come here and to be in this position is my long-term leadership in the Marine Corps, retiring as a sergeant major, which is E10 or E9. And I have spent 30 years in the fire department. That experience alone, working with public safety, working with public works on different things, on UDOT, on accident scenes, that interaction with these different entities that get involved in emergency services is very important. And I think that that's one of the things I stand strong with, the support of police, support of county government as far as dispatch and county fire and county sheriffs, which will interact with city police. So that experience in those 2 careers, in those very demanding careers, is going to help me do this job.
Great. Thank you for your service, Nick. Aaron, 1 minute.
Thanks. I decided to run for city council because I saw a communication need. I saw a communication breakdown sometimes. The reality is the current council has done significantly better than years past at communicating to the public when things are important and they're upcoming. But specifically, some of those that are communicating the best are not rerunning. There's going to be a gap in communication. And so I saw that gap and decided I wanted to fill that. And I was willing to serve in that way. I also see a need for small business support. This county and this city does a great job of driving tourism, but not necessarily supporting our small businesses and supporting places to live and work and keep jobs local. The actions I've taken so far is I've attended many city council meetings, and a lot of them virtually, thankfully for technology, and Wasatch County council meetings as well. I've been reviewing kind of ad nauseum the 2050 Envision plans and the different rules and things that have been passed recently. And I've been talking with residents on my street and that come into my business. I'm committed to doing what's right for the city.
Thank you, Aaron. Mike.
I have been really involved in this city since I came here 30 years ago. And I've been on the Rotary Club for over 20 years. I was a founding member of Community Alliance for Main Street in 2005. That is still going strong. I've been really involved in soccer and sports and basketball. I own a business. I've owned a business on here downtown for 23 years. I have worked with the chamber. I've been on the Board of Adjustments, a bunch of committees. So I have been attending city council meetings for almost 30 years with work. And I had no idea 4 years ago when I got on how much more work it was to be sitting up here. So I have been training to be on the council. And then honestly, the last 3 years have been eye-opening even more about what we have to deal with this Heber Light and Power, the sewer district, the affordable housing, the airport, tourism, the water company. So I feel like I've got this under my belt. I'm running on full steam and stop.
Thanks, Mike. Tori.
I'm running for city council because I get to spend most of my day talking to young families that come into the bike shop. And I don't feel that the opinions about the direction that Heber's going from those folks are often represented here in city council. I also have realized that so many folks here in Heber have families, and I can't imagine how they would be able to have a family and still do city council. That's amazing that folks are able to do that. I don't have a family. I'm super invested in Heber and its future. And so for me, it just makes sense that I can come and spend the time that I really value here doing these types of things and being the voice for the folks who don't have time to do that. So hopefully everyone in town feels that they can trust me to come and be the voice for them.
Thanks, Tori. Sid.
So why I'm running is because Heber's such a great place. It's such an amazing place. Moving here in '98, raising 6 kids here and being a part of the community is eye-opening to me, and I want to preserve it. Being a member of Planning Commission for the last 4.5 years, we've done a lot of heavy lifting. We are at a tipping point in the history of Heber, and I want to be a part of that. I've been on both sides. I'm a land planner and have been on both sides of the table. So now being educated, being up there on the stand helps me as a planner help and direct my clients to better their plans and their projects. So I'm just in love with Heber and want to do what I can do to help out and direct it. So thanks. And I stopped.
All right, moving on to question 2. So we will start with Aaron Cheatwood, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer this one. How would you define citizens' interests as a member of the Heber City Council, and how would you represent citizens' interests on important decisions?
What was the third word? How would you define?
So how would you define as the first citizens' interests as a member of the Heber City Council, and how would you represent citizens' interests on important decisions?
So running for city council is kind of interesting in that there's some feedback, in that you don't necessarily, I think Mike said it great on some questions we had this week, you don't necessarily want to vote for someone that will always look to find all of the voices that are competing for attention. You want to look for someone that has the character that's going to consider what's best for the city, listen to the voices, listen to the concerns, and try to understand and try to learn what the issues are and what the different concerns are, and then make a decision that's best for the city. I think it's really important that that person, once they make that decision, can defend their decision, can explain why they voted the way they did, what things they took into account, what things they learned, how, if they're 2 minutes and it's 15 seconds already. Yeah, minute 15. Okay. I think it's important that a candidate can come back and say why they voted for what they did, what they took into account, and if they changed their mind, if they learned something different, if they realized they were wrong, or learned something that changed how they thought about things, that can explain that. I think it's critical that listening to the loudest voices isn't necessarily the majority of the populace. It's just the loudest voices. And I think in this day and age, we all get kind of stuck listening to the loudest voices. And we hear a lot of that, whether it's on social media or in the news or whatever it is. It's important for me and for any future city council to listen to the majority, to find ways to communicate with people where they are, and then to understand what the implications of those decisions mean and explain those implications so that when we make a decision, we can explain what we are trying to avoid or what we are trying to accomplish. I think that's the critical thing that we don't see too often in modern day politics is we see the decision, we see the vote, but we don't necessarily see why or understand why. And we don't always have elected leaders that will explain what they were thinking, what they were trying to accomplish, and what they were concerned about while they were considering things. So I think that's the key to properly, he says, stop.
Thanks, Aaron. Mike,
You're good.
1 minute.
Okay, so in this country, I think we have a really good system of democratically electing people to represent us. But we don't democratically vote on everything. We elect people to sit up here, for example, in city council, and then to do the really hard work. Because every single issue that comes before us is complex and nuanced. And everybody that's giving us input, which is really welcome, but it's different and it's varied. And people give input and they have a voice and it's important, but generally that voice is self-motivating. People want to protect what they got, what they have, and what they do. I think that the key for sitting up here is to make really good informed choices that protect people, but move us forward with where we need to go. People are counting on us to do the hundreds and hundreds of hours of research and discussion and study, and to make the hard, difficult decision that promotes the city forward and helps us as we prosper. So 1 minute, wow.
Thanks, Mike.
I feel like I'm on Miss USA or something like.
You're crushing it.
All right, 1 minute, Tori.
I don't think that there's a citizen's concern that's not important. So any concern that any citizen has is really important to them, and it should be important to us as well. And as I mentioned earlier, I hope that as you learn more about me, you can trust that the decisions that you're tasking us to make are ones that are going to be in your best interest, in your kids' best interest, in your grandkids' best interest. Heber's growing at a rate that I'm sure most of you never would have imagined. And we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. We're growing. And so I hope you can trust us on city council to make decisions that are going to be great for you where you are in your life right now, but also great for Heber in 20, 30, and 50 years.
Great. Thanks, Tori. Sid.
So citizens' interest is number one. It has to be. If in a public elected position, you have to consider and honor and understand the citizens' interest. So another thing, you need to listen, definitely listen and be transparent with your decisions. You know, I can't take my personal agendas and put them on to the decision of whatever we're deciding. So it has to be for the citizens of Heber City. I'm all for that, listening and being transparent. Thanks.
Thank you. Nick.
The most important, I think the most important thing I stand on is the voice of the citizens, the voice of the residents, the voice of business owners throughout the city. It's important because people have asked me, what's your vision of this, where the city's going to go? What's your vision of Heber City? And it's not, my vision is not important. It's the citizens' visions that's important. Every last resident's voice has to be heard. Collectively, they all have their individual things, and that's important. Whatever they have to say in city council meeting is important enough for them to come down here. It's important enough for the city council to listen to and take part of that and to their collective discussions to make a decision. In the Marine Corps and in the fire department, taking care of our own means something. You never leave a Marine behind. You never leave a firefighter behind. We can't leave the citizens behind. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now we'll move on to our planning category, and we're going to start this with Mike Johnston, so you'll have 2 minutes to answer this question. Heber City's downtown has long served as the community's economic engine, providing jobs, private investment, and tax revenues for local government services. History has demonstrated that healthy downtowns are key for strong communities. Heber City recently completed the Envision Central Heber initiative, which establishes a vision for Central Heber and detailed steps to realize the vision. What do you know about the Envision Central Heber initiative recommendations, and would you support these initiatives if elected?
I absolutely support them. So downtown has for 125 years been the economic center of the city. We depend on Heber's downtown to prosper for the rest of this. The sales tax that comes off of Heber City is 3 times the property tax that we all pay. Over $6 million a year in sales tax versus $2 million in property taxes. We live on property sales tax. Our downtown isn't that, I mean, we think it's a great downtown, but when you look at it and I ask people, what do you like about downtown? It's hard to come up with a lot of things. It needs a lot of help. The one reason that we annexed North Village, that the county had already zoned in 2002, was because that's going to be the shiny new thing on the hill, and businesses tend to gravitate towards where the new stuff is and leave their downtowns. And I've driven across this country multiple times and seen town after town just suffering. We have to concentrate on downtown. So we've gone through this Envision Central Heber. It doesn't include just Main Street, but all of Central Heber. Central Heber has been ignored for a long time. All the investment goes outside of Central Heber. So we have instead of us on the council making, this is what we think is best, we actually spent 8 months and did this whole process and came up with, got some really good ideas and surveys and citizens input, and we've crafted a general plan together. It's only a general plan though. We have to implement it, and Sid referred to that. We have to actually implement it now with zoning and regulations and encourage it, because just because we want a bakery and a Whole Foods or something doesn't mean it's going to come. We actually have to entice it here with the correct mix of people and zoning. We need to re-people the downtown. We need to get people options in transit and options in biking into the town. We need more people down here. And I have 5 seconds. It's a great town. We can make it better.
Thanks, Mike. All right, Tori, you have 1 minute.
It's tough to follow Mike on that one. It's also tough to stick within a minute because this is a subject I'm so passionate about. Envision Heber 2050 is one of the reasons that I'm running. I think that it's a great general plan, as Mike said. And so now the next steps are making sure that we're able to implement and fill in the details so that it is an amazing downtown. We're going to continue to be the doormat, or we're going to be the doormat to Park City, as some people like to say, if we don't have a reason for people to stop here and spend their money. It is vital to the economy of Heber that our downtown is walkable, shoppable, and there's a place to park. We need those dollars more than anything. Otherwise, just as Mike said, they're going to start getting sucked to the edges and to the periphery. So as I said, it's time to put the pen to paper and figure out the details of what Envision 2050 Heber looks like, because the heart of our city is Main Street and we can't live without it.
Thanks, Tori. Sid.
I agree with both Mike and Tori. Both of them have businesses in Heber, Main Street or Heber proper. I call it the donut effect. Tori alluded to it. We are dying in the middle of Heber. We need to revitalize. I was on the steering committee for the Heber Envision Central. And with my experience by doing this throughout the country, we came up with a great plan. We just need to implement it. 100% implement it. We need to create places where people can come and be entertained, work, live, and that's Heber Central. So I'm 100% for it, and I'm very passionate about it. Thanks.
Thanks, Sid. Nick.
Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit different. I applaud what the city council has done and the planning's done for the Envision. I do firmly believe there is more to Heber City than 4 blocks of Main Street. There are tons of businesses that bring income or tax dollars into the city that are outside of that 4-block area. You've got businesses that have a heavy dollar amount coming in that are south of 1200. So for me, Main Street at very least is from 12th to 6th North. And all those businesses should be included in some type of envision of the Heber City Main Street. That's Main Street. It's not just the 4 historic blocks. It's, or 5 or 6 floor blocks. It's the full length, and all those businesses and the communities that are surrounding that area should be included in this envision. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Aaron.
So I have a business on the corner of First South and Main, right in the donut hole, like Sid said. The reality is that downtown corridor is definitely suffering. It's pretty easy to see as you look at it versus especially different areas that are really ballooning well, kind of down in the southern part of Maine and now going to be in the northern part of Maine. The question was, what do I understand about it and would I support it? And I tell you, I support it based on what I understand about it. What I understand is this was a plan, and a good general plan, like has been mentioned, that was put together with input from citizens. Many, many meetings, I got to go to several of them, where people got to come and look at different ways of laying things out, different plans, different structures, what different roads might look like, what different homes and businesses might look like, and then explain how they felt through surveys and through allowing them to have their voice. These were great meetings. They were held in schools. They were held in different businesses and places around town so we could meet people where they were and really listen and understand what the populace and the residents want. And the city council has done a good job to codify that. Now we have to put it into practice.
Thanks, Aaron. All right, Tori, you'll start us off with this next question, so you'll have 2 minutes. Currently, the Utah Department of Transportation is undertaking an environmental impact statement on possible alignments for a future bypass. What is your position on UDOT's work and support for a bypass?
That's a good one. Here's what I'll say about the bypass. I support a bypass, and I support whatever choice is the best for our downtown and our main street. I don't know right now what the best choice is. There's 5 options out there. They haven't completed the final EIS, so we'll know more when that's complete. And when that's complete, I feel more comfortable making a definitive decision about it. At the end of the day, it's out in the county right now, so it's not a decision that the city council would ultimately be faced with either way. But in the name of transparency, I have to say that I do support whatever bypass option is best for Main Street.
Great, thank you. Sid.
So I moved here in 98, and people that have grown up here, bypass has always been in the works. When I moved here, it was talked about. Fortunately, we have UDOT's ear, and we have some options which would benefit Main Street and Heber downtown. It's just, again, Tori's right. We need to really study and analyze, make sure whatever we decide is best for Heber City, and the ability to move trucks off of Main Street and revitalize Main Street. So I'm 100% for it, and we just need to rework or restudy and really study which option works best. Thanks.
Thank you. Nick.
The bypass has been, like everybody said, has been a big hot topic for a long time. I think that the bypass has some flaws in it. I would never support and will not support anything that cuts through the Northfields. I will not do it. I believe that if the bypass is built, it can come out to where the new Smiths intersection is going in. I do not believe in eminent domain unless there's some type of emergency that's going to cause, like a flooding or mass, something mass disaster or something. I don't believe in it. People's homes, their livelihood, their businesses mean something. And to cut a highway through, there's other options we can do. I don't like the fact that the southern end of the bypass cuts through the new Burton lumber yard, the new businesses along that new area that will run along the new housing that's going in there. And it's going to take out 64 homes that are in the trailer park. They're on the axe. Those people have limited places to go. So.
Thanks, Nick. Aaron.
In regards to the bypass, wait and see isn't a strategy. Just hoping that the traffic's going to get better isn't a strategy. That's what we've done for a long time now. And the reality is, I don't think anybody meant to so much as we didn't have UDOT's ear, like was mentioned earlier. We do now. They're conducting these studies and they're putting through in this EIS survey and understanding all of these different options. And the reality is that even though it might be county, even though it's outside kind of the city purview per se, the city has a responsibility to voice the concerns of the citizens. And my personal opinion is that the bypass is needed. As a business owner on Main Street, I'm not worried about losing that traffic. My customer base is here and they'll find me anyway. I realize that's not true with all businesses. I understand that. And so other people are going to feel differently. But I think the concern in the past that the businesses would be impacted in a bad way isn't necessarily true anymore. I think the traffic is impacting them enough right now. I think what I would recommend everybody do is, understanding we know these issues, talk to UDOT directly, contact them through their appropriate means, and make sure they hear you.
Thanks, Aaron. Mike.
We're 10 years too late. And we all agree that now. And we're beyond the tipping point for Main Street. We either move Highway 40 off of Main Street or we move downtown somewhere else, because it's unsustainable. It's intolerable. With what's coming in this state just up the hill from us and the traffic, you think it's bad now. By the time the bypass comes, no one will drive on Main Street. And so not having the bypass actually affects not just Main Street, but every other street in central Heber. You all know that. Some of you that live on 1st East, 1st West, 3rd West, 5th East, it absolutely has to come. It's too late, but it's going to come. I fully support whatever UDOT decides, and we need to go with, we have to push as hard as we can. And they keep pushing back and saying, well, it's going to be another few months. They have told us now it's going to be next end of the winter, so next March, April. It's intolerable what we have right now.
Thanks, Mike. All right, so now we're going to move on to our next category, which is growth. Sid, you'll start us off with this question, so you'll have 2 minutes to respond. Heber City has experienced record growth over the past 5 years. Several factors, however, prevent the city from enacting a permanent prohibition on growth, such as the state's Land Use Management Act, previously approved property entitlements, and constitutional protection of property rights. Extensive public outreach conducted as part of the Envision Heber 2050 initiative found that the majority of Heber residents value open space and prefer to see it protected. In your opinion, what are the best strategies for preserving open space while remaining compliant with state law and without adversely increasing the cost of workforce housing?
Great question.
That's 4 questions.
So I do this for a living. I work with developers that go and develop land. And I understand what it takes for a developer to actually do a development. Right now, definitely we have a major growth spurt in Wasatch County. It's not city, it's county. We have, as alluded, Extel up on the hill that's going to impact us. So the big thing, yes, open space and all that is very, very on my priority list. We need to have smart growth. We need to understand that this Envision 2050 was there for a purpose. We created this village centers throughout the Heber city proper that would densify certain areas and open up other areas to preserve that open space and preserve, trail systems, but then still be able to provide the ability for people to live in Heber Valley, because everybody wants to be here. I have 6 kids. Only one of my kids live here, and I'd love to have all my kids and grandkids live here. But we need to be very, very strategic, smart development. It needs to be thought out and well thought out, that we don't have this sprawl. I heard somebody say, I moved up here from West Jordan, and I don't want, it's becoming West Jordan. You know why? Because we have sprawl. We're not preserving open space. We need to densify certain areas that become a community, a walkable community, and preserve the open space and the ability for people to get out and recreate, trails and all that. So we just have to have that. It's implemented, or it is out there. We just need to implement it and hold our potential developers and landowners responsible for it. Thanks.
Thanks, Sid.
I firmly agree with the open space, even simple open space, like we've got a spot right in front of the police station that's open space. I consider open space. And there's been talk and designs made to have buildings placed on that place for gathering place. It would be nice just to keep that an open green space where someone can stop and have lunch in the middle of the day, or sit and talk to their loved ones, or visitors driving by to get out of their RV to recreate or just rest their legs. There's other places within the city as we start build up that if we work with these developers, we tell them what we really, really want. Maybe we can say in our negotiations when they come to the city council and say, hey, we want to put 50 homes on this lot. If we say, hey, can we back that off and do it to a certain size so that we can have more open space in the park that we're going to require you to have, or the trail system connection. But they hold that onto the developers, not onto the taxpayers.
Thanks, Nick. Aaron.
I think maintaining open space is really meeting landowners with a proper incentive, right? Landowners have rights, and often those rights are in the form of property values. And to get the most value out of their land and the land that they have or that they've gathered, we have to meet them with incentives to not develop. And that might be in the form of developers or working with developers, but it might also just be about being intentional about where we want the growth and where we want the density. Sid mentioned that we want to keep density in certain areas so that we can allow for open space in other areas, but still maintain residences that can support small business, that can support jobs locally, and have enough people to do the work that needs to be done locally. What I think the city should do differently is make the resources more easy to reach for the developers and for the people that own the land, to connect the grants and the funders and the donors with the people that actually want to preserve space, with the people that actually own the land, and then make sure that we never ever see grant funds expire because of lack of communication or a political way of withholding those funds ever again.
Aaron. Mike.
All well said. Since like 1910, this city didn't change one bit for 80 years. It was always just under 4,000 people. And then in early 1990s, after the dam was built and after the highway came through, we started to grow. Honestly, we haven't had explosive growth. It has been constant 5% growth for 30 years. Every year it's 4.5 to 5% population growth, but that means we double every 15 years. And that's where we're at. Why? Because it's an awesome place to live. And you know what? If you have money, you can move to Heber Valley. And so that high demand and the low supply has driven up our housing prices where I can't even buy my own house. I couldn't afford it. Your kids can't afford it. Nobody can afford it. We now cannot get people to work here because working people don't move to Heber City. Only people that are not working, that are retired, or wealthy. So it's a huge problem. 1 minute is not even close enough to address this, but we're doing our best. And planning, and being intentional, like Aaron said, is the key. We can't use 1970s zoning regulations like we have been for the last 30 years. Thanks.
Tori.
Again, another topic that I'm very passionate about, and clearly everybody up here is, you can't have open space without density. The two just don't exist without one another. So if we're going to preserve the open space, and a lot of the reason why we're attracting younger people and younger families, the access to open space, the access to recreation, then we need to have a little bit more density in our living areas. I'm certainly not pro apartment building everywhere, but I think that as we attract a diverse population, those folks are looking for different types of housing than we're used to seeing here. And a lack of availability is what's keeping those people from coming. We're not going to be able to continue to be an awesome Heber City if we're not attracting younger families, younger workers, and frankly, business owners. So open space and density go hand in hand.
Great, thank you. So Nick, you're going to start us off on this next question. Housing costs are quickly becoming a major hurdle for recruiting and retaining a qualified workforce. Heber City, for example, recently had 25% of uniformed officer positions remain vacant for nearly a year. If elected, what strategies would you advocate to help ensure adequate affordable housing for the area's workforce?
Well, we definitely can't get rid of a 64 occupant trailer park. We need to start engaging in discussions within the city and the county of providing space to build affordable housing developments, or having The ordinance has changed where individuals can have basement apartments, garage apartments, to allow family members to move in and get on their feet and get to a position where they can buy. Rent is outrageous and it's affecting everybody, including the public safety. In our department and in departments across the country, officers can't afford to live in the same community they're working. They can't, firefighters can't live in the same, we got kids living in their grandparents' house and, over an hour commute to come into Salt Lake City, work in our department. We need to work with this, with ensuring that we keep the best, not just the police officers, but the public works people that also need to be afford to live here. So we need to give them the adequate wages, a livable wage that they can retain their housing here, their family here, and still provide us the services that we need. We need these firefighters. We need to fill all these positions. We need to attract people, local people that want to take those positions. And I'll work real hard with the fire department, the police department, sheriff's department, and the county, getting that public safety individuals and our public works. I mean, they're our lifeblood. These people in the back room, seated in this back row, are our lifeblood for the city. They run the show. They do all the hard work at the bad hours, and we need to support them any way we can.
Thank you. Aaron.
I think it's an interesting question because it's two parts, right? One is that we have individuals that have a low income or a lower income than they can feasibly use to support themselves and to live here. The other is that we have incredibly high costs, and there's a two-pronged solution for it. I think for the costs, I think Nick hit on it a little bit, but I think we need to continue to do what the city council's already done and started in looking to change ordinances to allow things like ADUs, alternative dwelling units, mother-in-law apartments, basement apartments, things like that that can afford people that are either younger in career or younger in family to have a place to be able to live while they're establishing themselves. We also need to do a better job of making sure that we have resources centrally located where people can have access to things like rental assistance grants or housing grants or the federal programs that help to buy homes for first-time home buyers. The other thing we need to do is we need to keep our jobs local, and we need to keep the roles and the workforce local so that the wages stay local and the people that live local can afford to live here rather than having to commute.
Thanks, Aaron. Mike.
Wow, okay. This is a statewide problem. We are the fastest growing state in this nation for the last 20 years. And Heber City is part of that. We have been doing quite a bit. We actually do allow in Heber City, you can have an ADU, which is an apartment in your house in any single family home. It is permitted and it's easy to do. Does that help us? No. The average housing price in Heber City is $900,000, and the price that the average family income in Heber City is $350,000. That's the gap. Average family can afford $350,000. Average housing price is $900,000. The least housing price up here is $540,000. So how do we fix it? We can't. It's impossible without massive amount of public funding into it. All we can do is eat at the edges and try and do something, which we have done. All of our affordable housing that we have required, and 10% of everything that's being built is demanded to be affordable, and all that is required to be deed restricted.
Thank you. Tori.
Yeah, this is an issue that affects me every day as I lose staff and I'm unable to hire staff to replace them because there's nowhere for them to live. This is another time where I will really commend the current city council. They're making decisions right now that are going to affect us for years and years to come. A lot of the decisions they've made in the last couple of years haven't even been implemented yet because it's just such a short time frame. So if I were elected on the city council, I would want to continue to implement the things that they have put in place so we can continue to see these different varieties and types of housing so that we can attract more people to live in Heber, and so the people who already live here can afford to live here. The second part of that is I think we need to continue to make it easy and to remove the barriers that people are facing when it comes to adding ADUs to their property. In my opinion, ADUs not only give someone an affordable place to live, but they also help the homeowner or the landowner to make their living situation more affordable too.
Great, thank you. Sid.
So there is a way to help with this issue or this problem of affordable housing. We need to be able to give a developer the ability to provide this. There's many nonprofit such as out there, such as Mountain Land Community Trust. They come into communities like this, they go out and get grants. They're able to provide that type of housing for our community. Developers, the number one thing why they don't do this as much unless they're forced is the land cost is so high. If they had free land, they're able to come in and go vertical and be able to provide this source for housing. With that, we have land. Heber City has land. The school district has land. Let's work with private public entities to provide this housing crisis. Thanks.
Thanks, Sid. Okay, so our final question, Aaron will lead us off with 2 minutes. Earlier this year, Wasatch County placed Proposition 9 on the November 21st ballot. Proposition 9 is known as the EMS Sales Tax Initiative that, if approved, will establish a 0.5% sales tax dedicated to EMS. Do you support the EMS tax initiative? Why or why not?
I'm glad that question made it on here because there has been a lot of talk about Proposition 9 and a lot of it's been incorrect. Most people that are talking about it and that are upset about it are thinking of it as an income tax or a property tax increase. As a sales tax, it's completely different as the impact. If you think about it, anybody that comes into this city, whether they're from here or not, is paying into that sales tax revenue. That increase in sales tax is going to affect not only us, yes, that live here and work here and dine here and play here, but those that come into the city. And they're going to help to pay for what is arguably largely underfunded or volunteer EMS force around here. Most of the fire, much of the city emergency response, all of the, and I'm going to lose the word right now, the really cool one, search and rescue. Everything's really cool, but the search and rescue people, that seems like a cool gig. From the outside looking in, I'm sure. These are unfunded or volunteer or very poorly funded. And the reality is our Heber City Police Department is the same. It is funded, but probably not as well as they should be, considering all of the risks and the things that they do for us. I am in support of an increase of the sales tax in the city to go into fund, as Proposition 9 states, to fund the EMS relief and the EMS wages. I encourage you all to talk to other people about this, to learn about it, and to talk to your friends and neighbors, because there's a lot of misconception. And in this year, where we've already seen enormous increases from the county and from the school district, there's a tension and a feeling of not wanting to be taxed to death. The reality is this is a somewhat different tax, being a sales tax instead of an income or instead of a property tax. This only affects those that spend, and it does allow people that that come here and spend here but don't live here to help fund for the things that we need for those that are actually living here.
Thanks, Aaron. Mike.
I think most people agree that EMS is extremely important to them, especially when you need it, especially when something's going wrong in your house and you call 911. Right now, EMS is funded by property taxes, so we all pay it, and it's going to continue to, that demand is continuing to grow, and property taxes is how it's funded. This change, I wholly support it, is to stop raising property taxes for EMS and to move it to sales tax. And sales tax in this county, just almost 50%, it's like 49% of all sales tax into this county comes from outside visitors at the hotels, the resorts, I don't know where, but that's the number. So we pay half and people outside of the city pay half. In fact, when you shop in Salt Lake or Orem or Provo or anywhere else, you're paying their EMS taxes. So we should be doing it too, and I don't think it's going to harm us because our sales tax rate will still be lower than Park City, Salt Lake, and Provo Orem. So it's a good thing.
Thanks, Mike. Tori.
We're super lucky to live in this valley. It's amazing. There's so much recreating to do out in the outdoors in the summer and the winter. We have amazing trails. There's a ton of skiing and things like that. As we continue to gain in popularity among tourists, we're going to need those EMS services even more. In fact, they will likely become probably some of the biggest users of our EMS services. And this is one of the only ways that we can allow those people to pay for those services that they're using themselves. So I 100% support this tax because those are the folks that are going to need it, and they'll also be paying for it.
Thanks, Tori. Sid?
Yeah, I'm like everybody else. I'm 100% for it. I had the chance to talk with Eric Hales about his his job and what he does for our community with this tax. Yeah, he stated it would add at least maybe $5 million in a year to help with that. If you don't know, but 40% of the calls that come into his office or his department is out of our county, is out of our county. That's the people that are coming in and then getting hurt or whatever on vacation, and guess who they call? So why not have them fund that service? And with that tax, and it's not tax on the citizens, it's just sales tax. So I'm all for it. Thanks.
Thanks, Sid. Nick?
Of course, I'm for this tax. Uh, I I cannot support the fire department, the police department. It's what's raised my family. It's what I love to do. I can say I love it just about as much as I love the Marine Corps, but I need to state that I think we can do better than that tax. There are federal funding and federal programs through FEMA and other organizations to maybe having the citizens, not citizens, the city of Heber, and maybe like Midway, they can do their thing. But I think that if I was elected, I would like to see if I could get work on getting funding where Heber City can purchase a fire apparatus, a structural fire apparatus through whatever grants we can get to get them. That will take a burden off the chief of getting that apparatus for that new station. And the police department's the same thing. We have to support them fully. Get them the training, get them the equipment. There's nothing worse than show up on a scene and not having the equipment and the training you need. Thanks.
Thanks, Nick. So now we will move to the closing statements from our Group 1 candidates. They will be 1 minute each. We will begin with Sid Ostergaard, and we will move to their right. So Tori will be after Sid. Sid, go ahead. You have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Okay, thanks again. I appreciate the ability to come from you from Maine. There's 3 words that I want to stand on, and one of them is implement. There's been a lot of heavy lifting that the city planning commission and city council and the mayor have been doing. We need to implement that in the right direction. We need to cultivate, the other word. We need to cultivate good development. Support the ability for affordable housing in any way that we can have our kids and my kids live here in Heber Valley. And the main thing is we need to collaborate. We need to collaborate as a city and as a county and come together in one purpose. Not personal agendas can't get in the way of anything. It's about one purpose, and that's to make Heber a great place and a place where we're proud of. And that's what I want to stand on, and thank you.
Thanks, Sid. Tori.
As I mentioned, Heber welcomed me about a year ago. I grew up in a small town in Western Colorado, so Heber has felt like home. I've also made it a point to only live in rad places, and this is the raddest place yet. It's been an amazing summer. So I hope that you guys, again, like I've mentioned a couple of times, you can trust that I'm here for you to listen and to learn more. I think that that's one of the reasons why I've been able to do so many great things in my life is I try to be a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. So I hope to bring that to this office if I am lucky and honored enough to be able to have it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Mike.
I love Heber City. I've lived for 30 years. I absolutely dearly love it, and I want it to go in the right direction. There's a few things that are really important to me as a council person. One, is it fair? Is it fair and is it right? Is it sustainable? Are we creating a city and creating codes and ordinances that are sustainable and helps us be resilient as we move forward? That's really critical, even as we talk about water, or we talk about our infrastructure in downtown, or our traffic. What's unsustainable is what we've been doing, and that's why we're in a situation. When we move forward with single family housing, sprawling subdivisions out into the county, and everybody's auto dependent, yeah, that makes us bad traffic. What people really hate is growth. About growth is a couple things, taxes and traffic. And I think we're on top of that. We've been working really hard as a council, and I think I'd actually be welcome to work with any of these people up here. I can see that they're all really passionate, and that's what's needed. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Aaron.
I hope to gain your vote. I feel like I'm a good candidate because I'm intentional in my actions and in my decisions. I'm willing to do hard things now, and I'm willing to say when I'm wrong. I am a respectful collaborator, and I'll work hard with the council to make sure that we don't fight and we get things done. But if I'm not your vote, there's 11 people running. And I would encourage you to get to know the issues, get to know the candidates. Remember that with ranked choice voting, you don't have to have only one choice. You can think about the people that you like in the order that you like them, and make sure you fill out your ballot. Make sure you get out and vote. Look for things like flexibility. Look for things like the ability to learn and to listen, and look for someone that's going to be respectful, that's going to pay attention to the things that they hear and pay attention to the people that they work with, and trust and respect those that they work with, and work in a collaborative nature. Consider the character of the people. The things that they stand for now might change a year from now, and hopefully do as they learn more and understand more, but their character won't change. So consider that.
Thanks, Aaron. Nick.
Well, I'm going to bring to the table and to the council chambers is integrity and my character. I think I have proven leadership in areas of service for my lifetime. I've served so long and have enjoyed every minute of it. I think that the service to the community is extremely important. I worked in having to bring groups of men together from various walks of life, religions, colors, creeds, and brought them together to fight the fight. And the Salt Lake City Fire Department, we as public safety officials show up the scene when people are at their worst of all walks of life, and we serve those people to the utmost. That's the love that public safety people have. That's the love that the public works people have. We need to continue that, and I will continue that with this diverse city that's growing. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Nick. In behalf of the Heber Leadership Academy, I would just like to thank you all for being here and thank you for your willingness to serve at this capacity. We will bring group 2 in about 10 minutes. So if you'd like to get up and stretch your legs, please feel free.
This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome, everyone. It is now time to begin the second session of today's forum. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm a member of the Heber Leadership Academy and a moderator for today's event. We extend a hearty welcome to all candidates for their willingness to be here today, and to the audience members for recognizing what an opportunity this is for voters to become engaged with the voting process before it begins. Due to the large number of candidates, 11, running for Heber City Council in the 2023 election, today's forum has split candidates into 2 groups. 5 candidates were randomly chosen to participate in Group 1, and the remaining 5 candidates will participate in Group 2. This is the Group 2 forum. Group 2 includes the following Heber City Council candidates: Kristen Thompson, Vaughn Hokinson, Casey Powers, Danny Hill, and Jamie Hewitt. First, I will explain some procedures of the forum by addressing Group 2 candidates. We will start with opening statements by the candidates running for Heber City Council. Take note that the timekeeper is sitting at the table with me, Jessica, she's moderator too. When there is 15 seconds left on your speaking time, the timekeeper will hold up a card that states 15 seconds, indicating you have 15 seconds to finish your response or statement. At 5 seconds, the timekeeper will hold up a card that states 5 seconds. Please wrap up when you see the stop card. If you continue speaking after the stop card is held up, I will say thank you and move on to the next speaker. Personal references about other candidates are considered out of order. Please note the camera in the room. The forum is being broadcast live and a recording will be available for public viewing. Candidate questions will cover 4 topics: elected office, planning, growth, and a general category. Members of the Heber Leadership Academy have identified 7 questions that will be asked at today's forum. The questions will be asked of all candidates. Prior to the forum, numbers were randomly drawn to determine the order in which candidates would answer the questions. Candidate question response times to Academy questions will be as follows. Candidate 1 on the dais will have 2 minutes to respond to question 1. Candidate 2 will then have 1 minute to respond to that same question, and so on down the line. So 2 minutes for the first, 1 for each additional. Candidate 2 on the dais will then be asked question number 2, and they'll have 2 minutes to respond to the answer, while remaining candidates will then only have 1 minute to respond, and so on. You will each have 1 minute for an opening statement and 1 minute for a closing statement after the question and answer period has ended. Please remember to speak clearly into the microphone so you can be heard. To the audience attending today, please turn off your cell phones and beeping watches now if you have any. We request that you treat all the candidates fairly. Please remain quiet throughout the forum. No clapping, cheering, or calling out, with the exception that after the closing statements, you may clap for all candidates if you wish. No campaign literature or signs are allowed inside the courtroom, or inside the room. Prior to the forum, candidates randomly pick numbers to determine the order of opening statements and questions. If applicable, candidates will be available following the forum to talk with people, and refreshments are also available in attendance today if you'd like. All right. We will now begin. Opening statements from each candidate. You will have 1 minute. Group 2 candidates, you will each have 1 minute to read or state your opening statement. We will begin with Kristen Thompson and move to his left.
All right, thank you. Growing up in Heber City gave me a love for what Heber City has to offer, access to the outdoors. And I've spent a lot of my life in the outdoors, and I think that we have a lot of opportunity here in Heber City to preserve that access to the outdoors. That's why I'm running, to protect open space, to grow responsibly, to make sure that new developments have access to trails so that people can have access to the great outdoors. And that's it. Thank you.
Vaughn Hokinson again. It's great to be here again. I'm a little tired. I really love the people of Heber Valley. I'm here because of all of you. I'm here because of my 3 little boys, and I'm here because I believe in the potential of the people in the valley. That being said, I also love nature like Christian, and I love the environment that fosters what we are able to accomplish with our families here. And I'm excited to protect that, and excited to protect each of you, your financial interests, your safety interests, and to provide a transparent government with great integrity. And that's not to besmirch what we have, it's just to make that promise of transparency and integrity. Again, I'm Vaughn Hokinson, and I'm looking forward to getting to know each of you and hearing you out throughout the rest of this campaign. Thank you.
Casey?
Good afternoon. I'm Casey Powers. Having grown up in small town Camas, Utah, moving to Heber City was a bit of a big city adjustment for me, but it still has a very small town feel, right? And a lot of that has to do with the local businesses that I get the privilege with of associating with on a daily basis. And that's what my goal is to help preserve, is to help make it easy for our small town businesses to stay in business, make it easy and cost effective for them to do that, and make it easy for our children to have an opportunity to stay here if they so choose. So thank you.
Thank you. Danny?
Hi, my name is Danny Hill. I'm born and raised in Orem, Utah County, and met my wife in Park City, and we decided that Heber was a great place to raise our 3 kids. It's central to everything, the recreation, outdoors, and just a great community. So I think a lot of us are here for the same reason. We really want the best for our community. And I think I'd be a great choice to represent.
Hi, my name is Jamie Hewlett. I am 7th generation from Heber, coming from the Davis, Murdoch, Winterton lines. I've been here most of my life. I'm running for city council because I believe that Heber City is a very special place. There's nowhere in the world that you can be 10 minutes to a ski resort and 5 minutes to 2 reservoirs and hiking and skiing and windsurfing, and there's not a lot of places where you can fly gliders. Um, there's just really not any place like that. I've traveled a lot throughout the world, and I always come home, and Heber will always be my home. Sorry, I don't know, I got emotional, but yes. So I want to make sure that we keep a small town feel and keep it rural, and just I know it has so much potential. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the question portion, Q&A. The first category is for elected office, and we will start with Kristen. Why are you running for elected office in Heber City, and what specific actions have you undertaken to prepare yourself for this elected office?
So
You have
I'm
2
running.
minutes.
I'm running for office because I see a lot of opportunity that we have right now. There's been overdevelopment. There's too much traffic, and we can work to preserve the open space that we have. We've already committed to almost 8,000 additional units, which is almost doubling the number of residents we have here in Heber City. So how are we going to grow that responsibly? And so there's a lot of things we can do. With the Western Bypass, where we're going to route that, how we're going to preserve the North Fields, what putting that in, wrap it in shorter, providing other modes of access, trails. Just today, the governor announced how excited he is about trains. And I also created the wasatchbacktrain.org website. I think it's a great idea, bringing a train from Provo to Heber to Park City to Salt Lake City. There's already things going on with the Salt Lake City Rio Grande plan. And that could relieve a lot of traffic, solve a lot of problems there. And I've been attending a lot of city council meetings and reading up on city planning. There's some great organizations out there that have a lot of great information. Strongtowns.com is one of my favorites. And you can look at a lot of examples of cities that have built and grown without losing that small town feel, by providing pedestrian access, providing bike access, providing places for people to congregate. I'm a big fan of what Roger Brooks has spoken about here in our city council meetings about making our downtown a living room, concentrating the development downtown so we don't end up with an urban sprawl that ends up costing us more money and spirals us into more debt. Thank you.
Thank you. Vaughn.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Why are you running for elected office in Heber City, and what specific actions have you undertaken to prepare yourself for this elected office?
Thank
1
you.
minute.
So I'm running mostly because of those documents that we have framed on the wall. I know those are replicas, but I was raised in a family that taught me that civic engagement is something that should be prioritized above all else. And I truly do understand and love our government and our governmental systems and the freedom that we have. And I believe that in the city council, we have such a tremendous opportunity to impact our community for good or for ill based on the types of decisions that we make, whether they're well thought out, ethical, patient, considered, and unbiased. And I believe that my legal education and my many years spent in political activity and the hours I spend each day researching the problems that we face will empower me to get us through some times that are coming that will be difficult, and that I can help us make the choices that will protect our families and help the city.
Thank you. Casey.
So I'm running for city council. I have, like I said earlier, the privilege of associating with a lot of business owners in this community, and to be able to preserve that small town feel that we all cherish and appreciate so much that Heber City has to offer is my number one priority, to keep those small businesses in operation and keep them being able to move forward and create that environment for us. The other priority, and the reason I've decided to run, is I want to be able to help set up our kids and our future generations to be able to stay here if they would so choose. I have the privilege of working with a lot of people who were born and raised here. And in the job I work at, I've had 10 plus employees have to leave this valley because they cannot afford to stay here. And so coming up with reasonable ways for them to be able to afford to stay in the community that they were born and raised and create those opportunities for my kids and everyone else's kids is a top priority for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Danny.
So when we moved to town 6 years ago, I got involved with the Wasatch County Arts Council and served on that board for a couple of years. After that, I started getting involved with the Heber Market on Main, programming the concerts there. Recently, I started a new concert series over at the Wasatch County Library. And last year, I did the Heber Leadership Academy. And I thought coming to City Council would be another great opportunity to get involved, make important choices for both my kids' future, but also I have parents that are retiring here in the Valley.
Thank you. Jamie.
I'm running for city council because I think that well, I went to a lot of city council meetings, and then I was also on the Envision board, and I felt like a lot of the town's voices weren't being heard, and I felt like I could be a voice of the people and that I could be a spokesman for them and help get what we wanted our town to be instead of what people from outside of Heber wants our town to be, because I do believe it's special, and I think that development has become just a little out of control, and we don't have the resources to support it. And so I just wanted to make a change.
All right, thank you. Question 2, we will start with Vaughn. How would you define citizens' interest as a member of the Heber City Council? And how would you represent citizens' interest on important decisions? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. For anybody who's been around me for more than a day, you'll find I'm an extreme extrovert. I love to talk to everybody. I'm really looking forward to the end of the meeting so I can come down and visit with you. When I said that I'm running because of you, I'm very serious about that. I've been at the park and I've talked to citizens. I've listened to their questions. I spend a lot of time reading different social media posts across the community and different forums. And then I educate some kids in the Valley, and I work with the teachers, and I'm a member of the Rotary Club, and I circulate on the sidewalk and say hello to my neighbors. I collected money at the Lee's to pay for diapers for kids in need. I'm kind of a Boy Scout, and I like that about me because it's how I feel like I'm a part of all of you. And I truly believe that the difficulties that we face are going to take everybody. And I don't mean people who are for the temple and against the temple, or people who are for development or against development, or people who, I think all of us have to find solutions where we actually know our neighbors. I think that 2020 set us back a generation, maybe not a generation, but it set us back in how comfortable we are with our neighbors. And I'm somebody who can actually bridge that gap based on my personality, my communication skills, and my experiences. And I'm here to help you make sure that you know that your city hears you, and that you know your neighbors, and that your neighbors know you, and that together we can build the most beautiful and bright future for Heber City that we're all envisioning. And I know that it's hard. The decisions we face are hard decisions. The problems that we face are hard problems, and they cost lives, both of our current community members and our future community members. And I am willing to take the burden and the pressure of listening and working with all of you to make sure that we make the decisions that give us a bright future.
Thank you. Casey, 1 minute.
Sorry, could you repeat that again?
Yes. How would you define citizens' interest as a member of the Heber City Council? And how would you represent citizens' interest on important decisions?
How would I find the
Define.
define?
How would you define citizens' interest, and how would you represent citizens' interest on important decisions?
Perfect. So I would define it as it's a top priority for everybody, right? Like in the line of work I'm in, I get community members of all types. I have business members, I have the average citizen, everyone. I work at a financial institution, so I get to hear what everyone's feeling and thinking about the community right now. And so that's how I'm going to implement it, is take it right from them. I'm going to seek out what they want to, and get out in the community, right? And solicit it that way by being involved in there. But a lot of what I've gotten, a lot of what has motivated me to even run has come from the feedback I'm getting from people at my work every single day.
Thank you. Danny.
So I think community is, or everybody is very interested in the future of the future of Heber, with all the development and the growth we've had, and want to make sure everything's coming together in a way that, I don't know, minimal impact and allows us to keep the way of life we have. So there's a lot of concerns coming. I would like to, everybody comes with their own biases. Being from Utah my whole life, I understand there's a lot of division, different sides of the table, and I feel like I'm got one foot on both sides of the fence. I would like to, I mean, as an introvert, I listen to everybody and I try not to overtalk anybody.
Thank you, Jamie.
Will you repeat the question?
Yes. How do you define citizens' interest as a member of the Heber City Council, and how would you represent citizens' interest on important decisions?
Okay, citizens' interest would be what's doing best for the community without affecting the minority. I I've owned several small business, and I think a lot of doing what is best for the people is a lot of collaboration with people and finding everybody's point of view and then working together with them to figure out what's going to work best for everyone. And usually you can get, if you can get two sides to come together in the middle and make something work. Not everyone's going to be happy all the time, but um, but you can usually find a happy medium for everyone. That was a hard question.
Thank you. Yeah, it goes fast. Kristen.
So defining citizen interest, number one, you need to listen and ask. So we have public comment sessions during our city council meetings. We have online, we have Facebook groups. There's a lot of different ways, community events. My cell number's on my website. You can give me a call, text me. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you want and how would I represent them? Well, if they can see my website, they can see what I represent, open space, trails, more responsible development. They would elect me if they wanted me to represent them.
Thank you. Question number 3. This is in the category of planning. We'll start with Casey Powers. You'll have 2 minutes. Heber City's downtown has long served as the community's economic engine, providing jobs, private investment, and tax revenues for local government services. History has demonstrated that healthy downtowns are key for strong communities. Heber City recently completed the Envision Central Heber initiative, which establishes a vision for Central Heber and detailed steps to realize that vision. What do you know about Envision Central Heber initiative recommendations? And would you support these initiatives if elected? You have 2 minutes.
So about the Envision downtown, I don't know as much as the whole Envision Heber City, but what I do think is I agree 100% with a healthy community starts with that healthy downtown, right? And we've got to work to preserve those local businesses and make sure that they can stay operational and drive that business and those jobs for our communities, right? We have too many people that have to leave Heber City to go find work. We need to be able to create those jobs and keep them here. And that's a big priority, and it's hard to find jobs here right now and to get people hired here. And so creating a healthy downtown is obviously going to be very crucial to that. But I also think Envision Downtown 2050, we've got to do a lot more heat checks between now and then to make sure we're staying on the right course, right? The economy has changed so much, even in the past few years. We created Envision 2050 in 2019? And how much has the world changed and how much has Heber City changed in that short period of time? So how we need to make sure we are creating heat checks and making sure that we are every few years. What does Envision Heber City Downtown 2025 look like? What does Envision Heber City 2030 look like? Are we doing enough to adjust course with these economic changes that we face every single day to make sure that what the citizens voted for in Envision 2050 stays that priority? Because I think a lot of things have already changed in the short period of time that was created. So I love the Envision 2050, the downtown, preserving it, but we need to be a lot more proactive to making sure we stay on course and not being reactive to hope we end up on course by the year 2050.
Thank you. Danny, 1 minute.
If you ask my wife, it's too little too late. We are dealing with all the traffic and the incidences that have happened because of the traffic. I very much support Envision. I think that it is a great, I really applaud the city with how much they've tried to communicate with the community and get their input. Really would like to make sure that historic things are also protected, that we're not just rezoning everything and knocking down our pioneer buildings and settle our homes. But overall, I'm really excited for the things that are coming. New stage for the concerts, walkability, more parking. Those are all great things that'll support the businesses that are downtown.
Thank you, Jamie.
I have several questions about the Envision. There's just some things that I don't agree with. Like I don't think we should have buildings over 3 stories. There's a lot of density being approved, which we've already approved over 5,000 units just in the last 3 years. UDOT is planning on making the road to Midway from 600 South to River Road a 5-lane highway. Envision wants to turn Main Street into more a slower pace and putting up grass and making it walkable. And I think that we need Main Street. I think Main Street has grown too big to make it walkable. I feel like we need a vibrant downtown area. I don't know if Main Street is that exact spot for it, but
Thank you. Kristen.
So imagine here at the Tabernacle, there's a pedestrian-only walkway from here all the way down to Main Street Park. And at the Main Street Park, we have a splash pad in the summer, an ice rink in the winter. And along that walkway, there's all these mixed-use developments, 2 stories, maybe 3 stories, with residents on top, commercial on the bottom. What a great experience it would be. That's where people would want to be, in the evenings, go out to dinner, walk the pathway with their family, spend money, enjoy the time as a community living room. So I think it's a great vision to change the density here from 100 West to 100 East, allow these residents here, but we need to plan for it as well. If we don't have a way for people to get here without driving their car, if they can take the bus, if we can get the train built, we can provide a great place for people where they want to be downtown in our community living room.
Thank you, Vaughn.
Thanks. I want to address the elephant in the room. There's kind of actually 2 elephants, and eat one bite at a time, right? But money and the state of Utah. Okay, so money is essential to everything we're talking about here, and that directly impacts each of you. And I've talked to people who are really upset about property taxes, and I've talked to people who are really upset about the fact that they can't pay rent because they can't afford rent here. Now, we have to be extremely sensitive to the broader geopolitical and economic situations that are driving and pressuring our citizens in Heber City. If Envision Utah means that everybody who lives in Heber has to live in poverty on fixed incomes or has to work bad jobs because they can't afford to live here and only new people can come in, then that's a problem. If we can make all the things that Christian's envisioning on a budget that works with what we have, then I'm for it. But it needs to be safe and it needs to be secure and beautiful for everyone, not just for those who have money.
Thank you, Casey. Oh, sorry. Question 4. We're going to start with Danny. Currently, the Utah Department of Transportation is undertaking an environmental impact statement on possible alignments for a future bypass. What is your position on UDOT's work and support for a bypass? You have 2 minutes.
I think really the original bypass that wraps around the city is one of the better options that solves a lot of the problems. I know it's going to upset a lot of people that it's going to run through their backyard, but getting all the trucks in high school and the new college and events, all that traffic going that direction, I think it would really alleviate a lot of the issues on Main Street. I'm currently pretty worried about what's happening with the eastern bypass. I don't know if Mill Road is ready for the traffic that's headed that direction. And I would like to see a lot more infrastructure put in place before things open up. I live in the far corner over by Strawberry, and that intersection's starting to get pretty dangerous. And I would like to see us really make sure we research everything. But I think overall that option is the best option. I don't want to see it go down the field. I think if it goes down the middle of the field, it's going to be like Orem and Provo. You're not going to know what city you're driving through. All the development will end up eventually to the highway and the fields will be gone. So.
Thank you, Jamie.
I believe that UDOT has taken a very long time and we can't rely on UDOT to figure out our traffic situations. We need to figure out how to move our people through with all the development that's coming. We need to figure out ways to move people so that we don't have this traffic situation that we are now in. As far as the bypass, I would love to see a bypass. I don't know if that's going to be approved until after the Olympics are approved for Utah. So we need to figure out other ways to handle our traffic right now. I would not like to see it going through the North Fields at all. I'd like to see it in a different location. If it is going through the North Fields, then to come out at Smith's, not go straight through the North Fields like the other options are proposing.
Thank you, Kristen.
We need to protect the open space that we have. Paving over more of the North Fields would be a detriment to future generations. In the 90s, the federal government spent millions of dollars restoring the Provo River. It's one of the jewels of Heber Valley. It's great to be out there and walk and fish and see the people out there. And if you put that road through the North Fields, it's going to go right next to the river there and destroy that peace and quiet. You'll be hearing the semis and the other cars going by you. So I definitely say protect the North Fields. If it has to be built, wrap it around where the new Smiths is going. But UDOT can also look at adding express bus routes to the Provo Airport, to the Salt Lake City Airport, and like I've said before, a train. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaughn.
I really appreciate the creativity and the ideas that other candidates have already spoken about. So I just want to add that I feel like we have to realize that the process of putting in a road is a big multi-year ordeal, but if we just stagnate and stagnate and stagnate and put off and put off and put off, the problems aren't going to get solved. So we've got to find some way to push along consensus. Right now, there are kids dying in our community. That's the problem, that we're paying the cost of not having a better route for traffic. We've got to fix that problem. We got to fix it now. And so my thing would be talking to all of you and being urgent. This has been debated ad nauseum. Do we really value any piece of our ground more than our kids? And what is the best way to use the ground to protect our community and to preserve the open spaces?
Thank you, Casey.
So as a 9-year resident, the bypass has been the top topic of discussion since I've been here. And from what I understand, those residents that have lived here longer can attest that it's been a topic of discussion for years leading up to my 9 years here. At this point, honestly, I feel like it's too little too late. We've allowed too many homes to go in and be built. So how much is it going to cost to annex or eminent domain people out of their home, out of their fields, and get rid of the open space, which was the #1 priority of the Heber City residents in Envision 2050, was to maintain open space? And is it worth taking that space to put in a bypass? Or can we do that with some of the infrastructure that we already have set forth? Obviously, the kids and their safety is a number one priority, which to me would mean don't put it next to the new high school because that seems like a bit of a problem. But the traffic that's going through Main Street driving businesses, I don't think that'll be affected as much or impact those businesses as much with the bypass either way. So
Thank you. Question 5, category is growth. We'll start with Jamie. Heber City has experienced record growth over the past 5 years. Several factors, however, prevent the city from enacting a permanent probation on growth, such as the state's Land Use Management Act, previously approved property entitlements, and the constitutional protection of property rights. Extensive public outreach are conducted as part of the Envision Heber 2050 initiative found that the majority of Heber residents value open space and prefer to see it protected. In your opinion, what are the best strategies for preserving open space while remaining compliant with state law and without adversely increasing the cost of workforce housing?
So I don't think that we're ever going to outbuild demand here. We're a destination city. We can never build enough housing in order to lower the price of that. You can see that in Park City, that they've built and built and built, and now a hotel room costs $2 million. So we're never going to build enough housing to ever get ahead of that curve. Our growth has just become just out of control, and a lot of that is just approving density that doesn't need to be approved. We have zoning laws that need to be followed, and if we stick to those zoning laws, we're going to have a lot less density. We don't need to have the developers dictating what we're doing. We need to take care of the people who live here now. And some people think that, we're getting money for these in the short term. We're getting the utility fees and the sales fees and the revenue fees, but in the future, the city is $50 million in debt right now, 49 million, because we're replacing the water, we're replacing the sewer, and it's expensive. So in the short term, we may be getting revenue for all of these, for all of the density, but in the long term, somebody has to pay for the roads. These roads are expensive. The road to Midway is $20 million. We're not getting that kind of money. We can't support this infrastructure. We need to figure out ways that we can get money to support our infrastructure, and bringing all these people into our community isn't helping.
Thank you. Kristen.
So it's a hard problem. Utah has 3.2 million people, and we're going to have 5 million people in the next few decades. Where's everybody going to go? There's the push and the pull. Landowners want to sell their land, set up an inheritance for their children. Land users want to be able to mountain biking, hiking. There's a balance. And I think there's some great statements in our general plan. It says in the Heber City general plan, rural and mountain residential clusters will enable residents to live in neighborhoods where housing is focused on a smaller area, resulting in the majority of natural lands reserved for shared open space. This vision statement was built with all the citizens putting their input, and that's what everybody wants, is to preserve that open space. And we can do that through zoning, through impact fees, to go towards conservation easements and outright buying open land. We can follow Summit County's example and offer the residents, if they want another tax, to buy more land.
Thank you. Vaughn.
So I think I hear a lot of the problems. I think we have to be outside the box and have some really cool, interesting solutions. So we had the fire chief come to Rotary yesterday, and he talked about the need for 5 new fire stations at like multi-million per pop, $700,000 for a truck, all this. So we have all of these growth problems. Now, we have to remember that taking care of the people who are already here actually takes people, because we all like to use fast food. We all like to go to school. We all like to do We like to have police to protect us and firefighters. And those budgets have to be built into what people can afford in this valley. And if we keep on this path without creating creative solutions, then we're going to have a problem. So I have some great ideas. Maybe in another question I can answer or give you some of the ideas, or we can talk after.
Thank you, Casey.
Awesome. So the open space, that's everyone's number one priority, and growth coming with it is what everyone is upset about, right? We need to be smarter and more intentional with the growth and creating those open space and getting bonds to maintain it. I think when we did the Envision 2050 in 2019, the Heber City size now with how much we've annexed has grown significantly, but we are now developing on what was Heber City then, right? So are we actually preserving the open space by annexing more, but developing what was there or not? So we need to be a lot more cautious and creative with what we allow to be developed and everything like that. We can't stop growth, right? Everyone's mentioned we are a destination hotspot. It is a beautiful community, and we want to share that community with people. And if we want our kids to be able to stay here, we can't stop growth. We have to have places for them to eventually grow up and stay here. But I think we can be more intentional and creative with how we allow growth and how we create growth that allows everyone to be able to stay. These new kids getting married and starting their family need an opportunity to stay here if they desire.
Thank you. Danny.
I would love to see us slow down a little bit, complete projects, make sure infrastructure is in place to handle the growth that is coming. I mean, a lot of it has already been agreed upon coming. One of the things I'm noticing is I feel our community is unaware. They're frustrated with currently what's breaking ground, but everybody I've talked to seems pretty grossly unaware of what's coming down the pipeline, the amount of growth and where it's going. I mean, people know there's eventually going to be stuff by UVU that'll break ground, but the amount of people that's going to be up on Jordan L. Ridge, I think most people don't have any idea. And trying to research and find out when projects are going in, for us trying to get caught up on what's going on, it's hard to know. There's no good source, and I'd love to see alternative source for the community to know what's happening in the community.
Thank you. Also in growth category, here's question 6, and we will begin with Kristen. You'll have 2 minutes. Housing costs are quickly becoming a major hurdle for recruiting and retaining qualified workforce. Heber City, for example, recently had 25% of uniformed officer positions remain vacant for nearly a year. If elected, what strategies would you advocate to help ensure adequate, affordable housing for the area's workforce? Police, teachers, nurses, etc. 2 minutes.
So there's a lot of different ideas. As Jamie said, if we keep building house, there's no way we're going to be able to meet demand as a destination. So there's a couple ideas. One is, allowing people to build ADUs in their backyard. It's one simple way to double the amount of homes. Then you can do a long-term rental, make sure it's a primary residence. And the city doesn't have to add infrastructure. They don't have to add sewer. They don't have to have water. That's a cost-effective way. We have in Old Town Heber, we have a lot of houses where that could be done. And what if we allowed them to build one internal, like above the garage or in the basement, and one external, depending on how many the acreage of the house. You have to look at each of them individually. And then the other option, again, I'll say it again. I love trains. Trains are great. If somebody could get here in 20 minutes from Provo or 20 minutes from Salt Lake on a high-speed electric train, that would solve a lot of problems as well.
It looks like this was the perfect follow-up.
Thank you, Vaughn.
Great ideas. The city, or the county is proposing a 0.5% tax that would cover all sales so that we can share the burden of building the fire stations with the rest of the community. Well, that's okay, but who likes taxes? Not me. What about we have a Heber City initiative, city council led, on increasing and utilizing the current businesses that we have in the community to make more money. Let's leverage artificial intelligence. Let's use the high school kids, get them involved. Let's create more money that's just pouring in so that we're all doing much better. Now, I know you're all gonna roll your eyes at me and say, well, that's easier said than done. I know, I've started businesses and I've run businesses. It is hard to make more money, but I say, let's make more locally to pay for the schools and all the teachers and the police officers and everybody we need, and have a form of tax. Like if you don't want big jets coming in, maybe have a $1,000 jet landing tax for everybody that flies their plane in. I don't know what it is, but put it on people that are using our resort to pay for our needs.
Thank you. Thank you. Casey.
So I am a huge advocate for the government subsidized self-help build your home program for a variety of reasons. One, that provides these kids an opportunity to get into a home, right? That's their number one priority. That used to be the American dream, is to be a homeowner, right? And that is quickly dwindling with home prices. So the self-help communities where they put in the effort and they build their home and they're able to qualify for that, that's big. And I like that program because they have to qualify for a mortgage. It's not going to bring in like a lot of added crime. They have to qualify to have a home payment. They're putting in the equity, so they want to maintain it and make it a nice community because they built their house. And that helps create some affordability for these kids coming up. Now, as far as being able to create affordability to get people to come in and work here, uniformed officers, et cetera, that was on the news, I think there should be some government housing provided potentially where we can help get them here until they can afford the next level there. So thank you.
Thank you. Danny.
So at the last city council meeting, they did a great thing on one of the developments coming in. They put in, or maybe it was the coding of some of these homes that are reserved for moderate income, but give first responders, frontline workers, police, everybody in those services first rights to the homes. And I think every development should include these moderate to lower income opportunities. I would love to see, there's little discussion on auxiliary units. I would love for those to be zoned properly, have sewer and water so that they're safe for our community. But I'd be open for those type of opportunities as well.
Thank you. Jamie.
I have a couple of different ideas with that. I think I love the idea of ADUs, attached dwelling units, for our citizens so that they can have the ability to rent those out to their kids and they can also earn an income. So instead of going to developers, it's going to the people that already live here and they're able to control that, and we could change the parking limits so that they can be in control of their parking. The only way in a free market economy to truly have low income housing is to have deed restriction forever. So if developers, if they're giving, if we're giving them things so that we can have low income housing, then it needs to be deed restricted forever. The other thing is I want the city to take control of their own low income housing so that it's something that we can purchase and we own and we have control of, and we have control of who's in there and how much it costs. And thank you.
Time is up. Okay. Question number 7. This is the last question for this evening. It's a general category. And we'll start with Vaughn. Earlier this year, Wasatch County placed Proposition 9 on the November 21st ballot. Proposition 9 is known as the EMS Sales Tax Initiative, that if approved will establish a 0.5% sales tax dedicated to EMS. Do you support the EMS tax initiative? Why or why not? You have 2 minutes.
That's funny. I'm like ahead of the question. I really think that some of the ideas that we think are good ideas in government, where government takes care of the problem, are actually bad ideas. I think that we need to give people more money, more freedom, more access to solutions, and limit how much government does to solve problems. I see it over and over and over at every level of government. The people themselves are more likely to be successful in solving their own problems with government support than to have success with government created solutions to solve problems that government created. So let's focus on things like ADUs and all of that, but by deregulating and strengthening community relationships and having creativity in the free market versus increasing funding for government entities. Now, I know we need security in EMS and firefighters and all of that. So let's do that creatively without taxation. Let's find gaps in our budget that we can reduce. Let's take people and shuffle them around. How many of you have run a business? A business doesn't just get to go to all of its customers and say, hey, you get to all pay me more money now. No, the business gets to go to the customers and say, what are your needs? How do I pivot the business to make sure that I can provide the needed service without taking more of your money, because I'm here to serve you, not you here to serve me. If we want our community to be successful long term, we have to respect that government is to serve the people, not people to serve the government. And the more tax we take, the more we make people the servants of government instead of the other way around. I really believe that these problems, financial problems, can be solved without having to break the backs of people through taxes. 0.5% isn't a back-breaking amount, but when you add 0.5 and 0.1 and 0.8 and 0.7, guess what? Those points add up.
Thank you. This time's expired. Casey.
This is a double-edged sword, right? Because the cause is a good cause. We need EMS. I would want the first responders to have access to the necessary equipment to save me, my family, or any one of you guys in the event of an emergency, right? But we're also fed up with getting a 0.5 tax this year, another 0.5 last year, and everything else. So I think we need to be a little more transparent as a city and a community and a county as to where all of these funds are actually going. And how are we allocating them effectively? And are we doing that effectively, right? How can we keep having to add more and more taxes every year to cover these deficits, right? And so do I support this tax to help EMS? Absolutely. Okay, I would want every number of emergency first responder to respond to anything that I'm in need of. But we also need to be a little more proactive and a little more aware of how much we're spending and where it's coming from so that we can plan accordingly and stop gouging these citizens for more money, because that's already a topic of discussion. We've talked in every other question. The affordability here is getting a little bit difficult.
Thank you. Danny.
I would hate to see taxes go up, but I am in support of this tax. I think it's created very creatively. I like that it doesn't tax food, it doesn't tax gas, it doesn't, the needs of the people that are going to struggle the most from taxes, this hopefully won't hit them as much. I know a lot of our EMS are volunteers, and we need to be more aggressive on getting people that are staffed that can go out and rescue the people that are snowmobiling. And I know that's where a lot of it's going to go, is taking all the tourists that are get trapped and they need the rescue. So I am for this tax.
Thank you, Jamie.
In general, I don't support tax increases. I would support this tax increase as long as it doesn't affect the property taxes, as long as they're not taking it out of the property taxes. As long as it's excluded.
Thank you. Kristen.
I think we could practice a zero out budgeting, and each year when we look at the budget for the city, start from zero instead of starting from last year. See if there's places we could save money. But I have a neighbor who's on the Wasatch County Search and Rescue. And like Danny said, I think it's a creative way to do it on a sales tax. A lot of the money will be raised from people coming through, buying food or buying things on the way through. So I would be in support of this tax.
Thank you. That concludes the question and answer portion. So it's now time for your closing statements. Closing statements by group two candidates. Again, we'll have 1 minute each. And this time we will begin with Jamie, and we will actually move to her right.
Okay, I would just say, I can find my closing statement. I would say it. I would just say if you want someone who is creative in finding different avenues of income for our city, then you should vote for me. If you want somebody who is for open space and trails, you should vote for me. If you want to take developers more out of the question, out of the scenario, you should vote for me. A city should be doing what's best for the people, not what's best for the developers. We need to make sure that we're taking care of the people that live here and that we have a safe place to live and a nice place to live. And so if that's something that you would like as well, then you should vote for me.
Thank you. Danny.
I think everybody should look at all the candidates and see who best represents you. I'm somebody that's going to consider each individual problem and try to come at it with minimal bias, and hopefully common sense. I'm just a community member who wants to get involved.
Thank you. Casey.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for the fellow candidates and for this opportunity to be here today. I want to say thanks to anyone that's taken the time to listen and who cares about this community as much as I do and everyone else that's up here. It's a big deal, right? The future of our kids and this community is really right now, right? And Vision 2050 is huge and that's a great thing, but we need to be aware of where we're at today so we can make sure we stay on track for that tomorrow and make sure that our kids and everyone else is there. So if you want somebody that's hyper focused on what the future of this community looks like for their kids and future generations, I appreciate all consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Vaughn.
This has been so great. Thank you for being here. The act of participating in our government is a beautiful thing. I've been really excited to see the expressions on your faces and to see when I've hit a chord and to be able to resonate with you and participate you in this beautiful thing, which is our government. Now, if you have problems that you're concerned about, that you feel like you just don't have the time, energy, or desire to confront that are big problems, I'm here to pledge that I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to go out and be your advocate on these big problems. Do you need somebody to go down to the Temple Square and try to get an audience with a member of the Quorum of the 12 to figure out the temple situation? You need somebody to figure out where to put the vehicles. You need somebody to work on election integrity. You need somebody to coordinate with the state. You need somebody to share all the stuff that we've got going on finances. I will tackle the big problems and I will be here to listen and to do what you need done.
Thank you. Thank you. Kristen.
I think it's such a great thing that we have 11 candidates running. There's a lot of good ideas, a lot of great people. I'm happy to be up here on the stage with each one of you. The decisions we're going to make this next city council will decide the future of the city for the next 10 or 20 years, just as the city councils before us did. And I pledge to protect as much open space as possible, connect communities with trails, make our streets safe, and work with you to make Heber City even better than it already is. Thank you.
Thank you all for your closing statements. I'd like to close this forum today by thanking all the candidates for the participation in our democratic process. Thank you. I'd also like to thank Jessica for assisting as a moderator this afternoon. To the voters, please remember to cast your mail-in ballots either by return mail and postmarked on or before November 20th, or by dropping it off at the Wasatch County ballot drop box located in the parking lot behind the building at 25 North Main Street. If you have not received your vote by mail ballot, please confirm your voter registration at vote.utah.gov. The online voter registration deadline is Friday, November 10th at 5 p.m. You may also register to vote and/or vote in person on Election Day, Tuesday, November 21st, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the County Clerk's office located at 25 North Main Street. Early voting will be available at the County Clerk's office Tuesday through Friday, November 14th and November 17th, between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Thank you all for attending today. Have a good day.